Hello, and welcome back for another adventure in the cookie jar. Today we're doing the 8th recipe from the Plum Pudding Murder. It is called Minnesota Plum Pudding with a hard sauce. So apparently the hard sauce has rum or alcohol in it and the soft sauce does not. It does give you a recipe for both, but I am choosing to make the hard sauce. This is a recipe that is tricking me up a little bit today. I forgot about the sauce until the last second, right before I filmed, and I was gonna go preheat the oven and it says you gotta wait, you gotta stick it in the fridge for 30 minutes before you bake it. And it's just starting to become one of those, this has gone wrong and this is going sideways and kind of recipes. Nothing to do with the recipe itself yet. It's just, I guess, one of those things. So hopefully the actual making goes better than the planning. But as I said, it says do not preheat oven yet. This plum pudding must settle for 30 minutes before baking. For the pudding itself, you're going to want 120-ounce approximate weight loaf of sliced store-bought white bread. It says a sandwich loaf is best because it's easier to cut off the crust. I used Oro wheat white sandwich bread. There are usually 22 slices, but you won't use the end pieces. 2 15-ounce cans purple plums. I used Oregon brand. I had to order those off Amazon because I could not find canned plums at all. 2 cups golden raisins, 1.5 cups white granulated sugar, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1 cup melted butter, 2 sticks, which oddly enough, it does say in the ingredients melted butter. It does, however, in the recipe say to melt it, but it comes in at such a later point, I feel like, that it doesn't make sense for the ingredients to say melted butter and the recipe later to say melted butter. Like that I don't know. I haven't melted it yet because it's a very important step at a certain point, and I feel like melting it beforehand doesn't really work. But you're gonna want 7 eggs, 2 cups of heavy whipping cream, and a sprinkling of grated nutmeg. For the hard sauce, you're gonna want 1/2 cup of softened butter, 1 stick, 2 cups powdered sugar, 2 tablespoons, 1/8 cup of brandy, whiskey, or rum. The soft sauce is the same thing, except it uses 2 tablespoons of milk. So it essentially looks like you're making this in a bundt pan. You're going to spray it with the flour baking spray or butter it and flour it. It does say that she'll butter the pan, add flour, put a piece of plastic wrap over top, and then like over the sink she'll shake it so all the flour sticks, which if you think about it is not a bad idea. I still would rather use the spray though. You're gonna divide your loaf into thirds, 7, 7, and 6 slices, cutting the crust off and then cutting them in X's to make triangles. And then with that, you're gonna drain the cans of plums. And then it says that there should be about 10 plums a piece per can. You're gonna slice them open, take out the pits, put them cut side down on top of the bread triangles. And then you're gonna put a couple raisins on top of that. And then half the sugar, and then a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then you're melting a cup of butter and pouring that over the bread, the butter, plums, raisins, and cinnamon sugar. Then you're gonna repeat it again with the other half of the ingredients. And then eventually you're gonna make a custard with the eggs and the cream. And then once you have your custard, you're gonna pour that over top of the final layer of bread and cinnamon sugar. And then I guess you put a little bit of nutmeg on top of everything. And then you let it sit for 30 minutes. And then you're gonna bake it at 350 for 70 minutes. It doesn't say how you know when it's done. It just bake it for 70 minutes. It does mention putting it on top of a cookie sheet of some kind for spills. So, obviously, I don't know. It does say to let it cool for 20 minutes and then turn it onto a platter. If you're not serving it that day, let it cool completely, cover it with plastic wrap and refrigerate. It can sit in the refrigerator for 3 to 5 days. It says let the come to room temperature before serving, and then dust it with powdered sugar or place a sprig of holly or another non-toxic Christmas decoration in the center. Carry it to the table for a wonderful final to your day celebration. This pudding is best served slightly warm and drizzled with hard sauce, contains liquor or soft sauce, contains no liquor. Recipes for sauces are below. And that is just beating the butter till it's fluffy, adding the powdered sugar and a tablespoon of liquor. Add the final cup of powdered sugar and a final tablespoon of liquor. This recipe just likes to do everything by half, apparently, I guess. And then it should be fairly thick, but still pourable. If it's too thin, beat in sugar. If it's too thick, add more liquor. Essentially, the soft sauce is the same thing, but with milk instead of liquor. Same stuff. So, as I said, it doesn't seem hard. The steps seem very simple. It seems just to be doing the same thing over and over. It does seem, I don't want to say it seems complicated because it doesn't. It sounds very simple, but there's a lot of steps, I guess. And I don't know. Hopefully it comes out. Hopefully it tastes good. Let's get started. This is everything we're going to need for the plum pudding and the hard sauce. So bear with me. I am fairly confident this is going to be a lot of checking the book per step because it just is a lot of little micro steps. So we have our drip tray. We have our bundt pan. We're just going to give that a quick hit with the flour spray. Make sure you get the center so it doesn't stick to that either. And then set that to the side for now. The next thing we want to do is divide our bread. So we don't want the end pieces. Clearly this is not those. So I think we're going to do this in halves. These. And a knife. And now we want an X. And then we just want to repeat with the other stack. Alright, so there's that. So to arrange these in the bottom of the bundt pan, covering as much as you can. I don't feel like I've been this confused layering things since we did the cookie things for Herb and Lisa. Like, should they be overlapping? I'm not quite sure what I'm angling for here. Because this is more than covering the bottom. I don't know. That's what we're going with. All right, now it says to open plums and drain them. It mentions nothing of saving the juice, so I am not going to worry about that. You know what, we're gonna do this one at a time. That way I know exactly which ones have 10. Yep. That's what we're gonna do. Okay. So slice them open and remove the pits. You don't really have to, well, I guess if you want to layer them, you're gonna want to slice them in half. They're very, very soft. Like, kind of weird feeling and squishy. I do not like this, Sam I am. I do not like this. No, I don't. I'm a very textual person. And this is squeezing me out. Now we want to lay them cut side down. And I'm just going to go across and try to cover it. And then I'll fill in with the extras. Now, on top of the plums, we want half of our raisins. Okay, that seems like enough. I am going to measure the sugar simply because there's an extra bit in here because it's 1.5 cups because there's supposed to be extra on top. So I will measure the sugar and shake that accordingly. On top of that, we want a sprinkle of cinnamon. So just going to reverse measure, I guess. All right, so now we're going to melt a stick of the butter, this guy. Now it says just to pour it over everything. All right, and now we're going to start over. We have our second stack of 7. And then plums. So drain out our next can. Remember to take out the pit. Where are we now? All right, we want the rest of the raisins. And then 1/2 cup of sugar. The rest of the cinnamon. And then a stick of butter. So now we need to melt another stick of butter, the last stick for the actual plum pudding. We do have 1 more stick. That'll be for the sauce. All right, so now we have our butter, and we're just going to drizzle that on top. So now we want our last sack of bread. And once again, we're going to decrust it. I get that liquid fills gaps and spaces and everything, but I'm not quite sure where that liquid plans on going because this looks so full already. And I'm supposed to pour like, I don't know, 2 cups of milk and a bunch of beaten eggs on top. I don't think that's gonna work. We're gonna try, but I am not expecting stellar results. It does say to press them down and then sprinkle it with cinnamon sugar. I thought I was just doing that to kind of help mold it, but no, it does actually say to press them down with your hands. So we're gonna smush everything. And then I'm going to sprinkle the last set of sugar. So now we have our 7 eggs, and it says to whisk those up. It says careful not to overbeat. You're making custard, not sponge cake. So what am I whisking these to? It doesn't say, do I want them just combined like scrambled eggs? Do I want them bubbly? Do I want them? It just says don't over mix. All right, we're gonna call that, I guess. Add the cream and mix it in. So next up is drip tray. Bunch. Ooh, we lost a raisin. Just slip it in there, okay? All right. Now it just says to slowly pour this in and let it soak. And if it looks like it's overflowing, just give it a second to seep in and then keep adding. And then you're gonna let it sit for 30 minutes. Oh, okay, so very carefully. So all of it's in. You can see some bubbling where it's soaking down into the rest of the pan. I assume the next 30 minutes, it'll slip through all of the cracks down to the bottom and the bread will start soaking it up. And hopefully in about 30 minutes, there's not gonna actually be any of the custard on top, is my assumption, but I don't know. So real quick, I forgot, it does mention sprinkling fresh grated nutmeg. I've never actually seen nutmeg in a store, so I can't do that, but I am gonna take it and pinch them in my fingers and sprinkle it over top. And there we go. So it's been sitting here for 30 minutes. You can definitely see parts where the bread soaked in a lot and floated up. You can still see bubbles in some places. Now it's supposed to go in the oven for 70 minutes at 350. So it's been 20 minutes. This is what has come out of the oven. Definitely a good idea to have the drip tray. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's kind of clear, so it might just be like butter, maybe. But now it's time to turn it out and make the sauce. For the sauce, either the hard sauce or the soft sauce, we're gonna want the stick of butter. So it's just to beat that up until it's fluffy. To this, we're going to add half of the powdered sugar. So a cup of powdered sugar. And half of the liquor. Probably only 1/2, but. Once that's good, you're gonna add the rest of the powdered sugar. And the rest of the liquor. So it says this is supposed to be pourable. And this is definitely a frosting and in no way pourable. But it does say to keep adding liquor or milk, depending on the sauce you're making, until it's pourable. So I guess I'm just gonna add like a tablespoon of this at a time, maybe half a tablespoon. I don't have any milk, or else I'd probably just start adding milk instead, because I don't want to be like so boozy, it's gross. But I don't want to add any more liquor necessarily. I might add water to try to thin it. So I had saved the juice from the plums, and I was gonna add it to like some lemonade or something. But I think it's gonna work better in this because I cannot keep adding rum and I don't have any milk. And it's still in no way liquidy, like no way pourable at all. So I think that's, I don't know. I really don't. Last week, we ended up having to add like 5 teaspoons to get an icing, and this week we're adding tablespoon after tablespoon to get something usable, which I think we finally got there. Maybe. At the very least, it'll run down the side of the cake. But whoever did the recipes, or at least the frostings for this particular book, seems to be very off base. And I understand that it's add liquid to make it thinner, add powdered sugar to make it thicker, but it just doesn't seem like it's ever enough. All right, so this is what we're gonna go with. Bring this back. Ladder. Uh-oh. We had some get stuck. Very grainy. It's, I don't know what to make of this. But this is a mess. Like, this is a truly undefined mess. It says it's supposed to be hot. You add the frosting, and the frosting melts into a puddle of goo. Now I see why they want you to put the fake decoration in the center to maybe make it look better. I don't know. This is the mess we have. So, I think this should be in a bowl. I do not think it should have frosting. I think it should have like a scoop of ice cream or some whipped cream. I think that all of the little bits between forgetting the sauce and having the wrong kind of bread and this and that, I think they were like an omen of, you don't want to do this recipe? Really don't want to do this recipe? And it looks like such a hot mess. And I have this feeling that it's just going to be so ridiculously oversweet. And from start to finish, this thing was a mess. And I just, it's almost to the point where I don't want to taste it, because I know if it's not like an amazing taste, it's going to just feel like such a waste of ingredients and time. But all right, enough putting it off, I guess. Gotta make sure I get plums. It's not awful. I definitely 100% think this should have been done. It did not need to be done in a bundt pan. It could have been done in a 9x13. It could have been done without the frosting. Just like get yourself some Cool Whip or some vanilla ice cream. They made this so much more complicated than it needed to be. You didn't need to cut triangles. Like, just do a 9x13, layer bread, layer plums, a light dusting of sugar, a little bit of spring cinnamon, another layer of bread, plums, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of cinnamon, custard on top, whatever. This could have been done so much easier, and probably with a heck of a lot less sugar, because the butter and the sugar ratios seem ridiculous, especially with how much butter is on that pan that boiled out. I'm gonna say, I would not make this again. The flavors are okay. They are not amazing. And they are definitely not amazing with how much this problem was. And the frosting, just completely, don't make it. But next week, we are making chocolate pretzel cookies, I believe. Yeah, chocolate chip pretzel cookies, which I am so glad to get away from frostings, because as I complained about a minute ago, the frostings in this book are just awful. None of them have been good on their own. The lemon frosting from last week, we ended up using 5 times as much lemon juice as it called for to get the icing, but we got there. But still, I'm over frosting. I really am. But if you are interested in seeing those chocolate chip pretzel cookies, join us next week. I hope you all have a good one. Bye.